I could go into detail about how Redemption won the first ever Album of the Year award here on this channel, a channel that's not even here anymore back in 2009 when I was just Cover Killer. I could even use the movie voice and be like, in 2009, with Snowfall on Judgment Day, Redemption won Album of the Year. Can they do it again in 2016? But there's really not... No. The album's called The Art of Loss, and it's a fitting title considering the band has suffered major loss in the fact that their lead guitar player, Bernie Versailles, is not a part of this. He unfortunately suffered an aneurysm in 2014 and is not on this record. But like Bernie Sanders wants to do to America, this gentleman has bestowed gift upon us. That's right. In his absence, we have a plethora of guitar players that are taking the helm and helping out, and we get this strange situation where it's kind of like a Redemption/Megadeath project. So is it Redemption Death or Megaredeemer, or what gives? What do we call this thing? I think we call it awesome. We have Chris Poland on some guitar work on this album. Chris Broderick is on a track, and Marty Friedman. John Bush from Armored Saint, formerly of Anthrax, who we talked about earlier today, helps out with vocals on a track. And then Simone Mularoni is got nothing to do with Megadeth, but he's on here also doing some guitar work. So wow, we have a ton of guitar players helping out. So Bernie's absence is instead enhanced as opposed to being a critical and crippling loss. It's already been 5 years in the making for this album, so let's talk about it. The Art of Loss, by probably one of progressive metal's more underrated groups, and we just did a video on that. They're probably going to end up on an episode. Did you see episode 1? You should. So this is an album that starts off, quite frankly, with its title track, and I'm going to sort of skewer around here, sort of jump a little bit, considering I want a lot of this album to be soaked in by individual listeners, because there's a lot of critical elements here that really needs to be sort of taken in. And this is also an album that, while it does have some of those keynote differences in guitar tone and perhaps overall aggressiveness, because this is, for Redemption, a little bit more of a guitar-driven, aggressive album, but it still also has a lot of their staples. A lot of the emotional factor is still present on this album, and it's present really in some magnificent form. If you thought James LaBrie performing on a track in Snowfall on Judgment Day was big, these are just as magnificent and just as huge. So, first of all, The Art of Loss starts this album off fairly decent. It gives you sort of that preview of what's to come. It has a little bit of the more aggressive guitar, but it still combines very nicely. Ray's vocals are still top-notch. This man has been going at it with Fate's Warning and Redemption now for what feels like forever. And it doesn't feel like his voice ages. He's one of those ageless wonders, kind of like Bobby Blitz Ellsworth from Overkill. It's kind of ridiculous, but the vocals are definitely top-notch. Now, with Slouching Towards Bethlehem, which is track number 2, and 30 Silver, I feel like there's a little bit of, maybe a little bit of a religious overtone going here with these tracks, or perhaps on a metaphoric level as opposed to a direct level. But either way, I really like the imagery that's painted on both of these tracks. And these are 2 tracks also that feature Chris Poland doing some guitar work, which he's featured prominently on this disc. But it's just something that brings such enhancement to it. And what also needs to be really credited to Poland is his excellent work along with the band for Hope Dies Last, which is track number 4, the first of 2 10-minute plus epics that are featured on this album. I really enjoy what he brings to this chemistry, and I'm not saying that Bernie is a bad player or that Bernie can't bring this side to this band, but I like the fact that Chris brought his individual side, the individual Chris Poland that has been, around forever. He was on a couple of Megadeth's earliest albums in the 1980s, and yet still has sort of this very technical but individual feel to him. And it really works well with... You would never think this would work, is essentially what I'm getting at. You would never think that this match would actually work. You would never think that you would never imagine that these folks would be in a band or working with a band like Redemption. You would think that working with a group like Megadeth, that would sort of sway them away. But Whenever it gets to its core, it's all about technical guitar work, it's all about the instrument, it's all about good writing, and that's essentially what we got here. That's exactly what we got. And we got precision performance with a lot of heart. The emotion bled through. It wasn't just three guys that were formerly at one point in Dave Mustaine's army that just went in and did the deed. They put their heart and soul into it. And that emanates from these tracks, from Damage, track number 3 that features Marty Friedman, but especially and most magnificently the last 2 tracks that you hear on this excellent album. Love Reign O'er Me is track number 8, is a cover of a Who song, and if you're asking who are the Who, then get the fuck out. Has John Bush doing some vocals with Ray, and they do an excellent job covering this track. They give it the soul. They give it its own individual oomph. You know, giving it more of a updated sound, updated tone. And it has that production value. So there's no inconsistency there. I just like the raw power that's delivered here and the fact that the emotion still maintains. And I feel as though the Who would be very pleased with this. I feel as though they would be exceptionally pleased if they heard this album, or excuse me, the song. Chris Poland, once again, pops up, does the guitar work, and he does the same for At Day's End, which features him and the aforementioned Simone Mulroney. And this track, the only way that I could describe this is Redemption's Supper's Ready. And not so much in tone, not so much in register, but in construction. It's in the fact that this is a song that's able to borrow facets of so many different styles of music and combine it together into a 22-minute long opus that it's coherent, it's cohesive, and sounds terrific. You don't get bored with this song at any point. And this isn't even Redemption's longest song. There's a track off of their very first album, their self-titled album, that's about 2 minutes longer. But this album combines elements of progressive metal, progressive rock, classic rock, hard rock, and, a little bit of jazz, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Throw it in the mixing pot, let her go, and you have this wonderful masterpiece. What makes this song so terrific is not only the killer guitar work, it's not only Ray's passionate performance at the vocal helm, but it's the fact that each and every member of this group gets to showcase their chops, gets to showcase their stuff in one way, shape, or form. There's a bass element during the first half of the song that showcases that. There is a drum spot. And really throughout this, it's just an excellent, excellent drum performance. Of course the guitars are focused. Of course this is very guitar driven. Lots of melodies, solos, things are going nuts. But the keys play a crystalline element here. They add to the beauty, they add to a little bit of the crazy. Any part of this that has more of a thrash variety to it, which yeah, there's even a little bit of that. I told you, throw a couple more things in there. The keys are right there along with it. The keys are right there along with it. They in fact enhance the power somehow. They're able to run a line over top of that actually gives it a little bit more of that juxtaposition. It gives it a little bit more of that oomph. It makes you smile a little bit. And that's what you gotta love. That's what you gotta love. You might wonder why this year so far we haven't had very many low scores. Because this isn't a low score at all. This is a 91 out of 100. The reason for that is because this feels like these are all the albums here in January and February that 2015 just couldn't handle, or just was unwise to release them that late in the year. This is an exceptional disc by a band that, once again, I will reiterate, I feel in the progressive realm even, is a bit underrated, is a bit underappreciated, that deserves a lot more love. It might not be as soft as Porcupine Tree or Steven Wilson. It has a little bit more of a harshness to it. But it's just as emotional, it's just as driven. If you like Porcupine Tree, check these guys out. If you like Opeth, and you like, some of the newer stuff, as well as some of the older stuff, you should definitely check these guys out. If you like Dream Theater, you should know these guys already. And if you don't, it's criminal. This album is actually better than The Astonishing. I'm just going to throw that out there. This album is better than The Astonishing. That's my opinion, though. What's yours? If you've listened to this record, if you know Redemption, let me know your thoughts of The Art of Loss in the comments below. I'm very interested to hear what you have to think about this, what you have to say about this. Everything. Very interested now, more than ever, because my voice is shot. So I now leave it up to you. I am Cover Killer Nation. I bow before thee, because you are the nation, I am the Cover Killer. You keep this going, and I will talk to each and every one of you guys the next time.